Hello neighbors, it's Brad here from eTrailer, and today we're taking a look at installing the CURT Trailer Hitch receiver on a 2025 Jeep Wrangler Unlimited. And adding a hitch to your Wrangler is really a great option for being able to take an adventure vehicle on more adventures by being able to bring more stuff with you, whether that be a cargo carrier to load up your camping supplies, a bike rack for those bike rides, or even a ball mount to tow a trailer. And this is going to be a great option and a fairly easy one to get installed. So let's take a closer look. First and foremost, I want to point out that this is a 2-inch by 2-inch receiver tube opening. And with that being said, that's a great option because most of your accessories are going to come in that configuration. So you're going to have tons of options available when choosing a bike rack, a cargo carrier, or even that ball mount. And all of them are going to stay in place with a 5/8 pin and clip. Now this is not included with the hitch. A lot of times when you pick up accessories, they'll have them included. And now if you plan on leaving an accessory on the back of your vehicle, something you might want to look at is a locking pin and clip. That way it is a great deterrent for anyone that's walking by that sees your accessories and they can't just take this pin out and those accessories with them. We have tons of options that you can pick from here at eTrailer. Our plate style safety chain loops are a nice circle here, so if you plan on pulling that trailer, putting that safety chain on with a standard S-hook or even a larger clevis style is able to be put on here. It's a little bit difficult just because it's fairly thick here with the larger clevis style, but you put it in an angle, you won't have any issues. Now, something that's somewhat unique to Wranglers these days compared to a lot of vehicles out there on the road is a spare tire on the back. And it's cool, that kind of is what makes a Jeep, but it does run into some issues with certain accessories. So because this sits far back, those accessories are going to have to go out pretty far, especially with those folding ones, because sometimes they're not going to be able to fold up all the way because the tire's there. So choosing the right accessories or getting an extension for your hitch may be the alternative. So measuring from the center of our hitch pin hole to the furthest point on our tire, we're coming in about 6.5 inches. So I do think that you are going to struggle to get, just a typical accessory to fold all the way up without that extension. So something you might want to look at is accessories with a longer shank, or see where that hole is in reference to the breakdown point of it folded, and then you can determine which ones are going to play ball with this well. Another good measurement to have is our ground clearance. So this one from the top of the receiver tube opening to the ground, it's right at about 21 inches. And that's really going to be important for choosing the right ball mount. This is going to be where you have the ball mount come out, but you want the trailer as level as possible. So if you have that trailer available, get it nice and level with the jack on the ground, measure from the ground to the top of the coupler, and then take that measurement and compare it with our 21 inches, and you can determine the rise or drop necessary. If I was to guess, more than likely it's going to be a slight drop. But again, looking for something with a longer shank that puts the ball out means that it's going to be a lot easier to hook up the trailer and it's not going to make contact with the tire. Something else to consider is if you have those suspended accessories like a cargo carrier or bike rack, even though you have a ton of clearance, as you go up some steep inclines, it's very possible they can bottom out. I don't worry too much with this vehicle as some of the other vehicles with lower height clearance, but still something, as you go up that incline, you don't want to bottom out that bike rack. So just keep that in mind when driving out there. Now, you're probably watching this video because you want to see how to get this installed on your Jeep, and I'm here to tell you this is a nice, easy one. This is definitely able to be done in your driveway or garage. Give yourself maybe about half an hour. I found that the hardest part was lowering down the exhaust isolator because you need to move that muffler down in order to pull the bolts out from the factory or put the new ones in. And depending on trim and bumpers or even the engine, eco diesel versus the gasoline, there are some variances, but the instructions are good about laying all that out. So some of them have a plate with weld nuts on it. Ours did today, and so if yours is that way, then you'll be able to see exactly what to do. But throughout the process of watching the video, if you decide, you know what, I don't have the time, the place, the tools, or even the want to install it myself, not to worry. You can find someone close to you to get it installed by using our dealer locator. You'll simply just put in your zip code and find a list of shops close to you that can get the hitch installed and get you out on the road without having to worry about that installation. But for you DIYers, a few things that you're going to want to prep. A pry bar to get that exhaust down and also wedge the hitch up. You're going to want an 18mm socket, a 19mm socket, 19mm wrench, and a torque wrench. But beyond that, it's pretty straightforward. So let's hop into it. Let's get this hitch installed on your Jeep. To get this installed, you're going to notice that this hitch is quite a bit different than other trailer hitches that you might have seen before, and that's because it uses this rear frame mount to be able to bolt up. And there's two isolators that we're going to pry off. To get that pried, you're going to first find them on top of the muffler, and we're going to use a pry bar. You can use a long flathead screwdriver, and try to use the hangers in the muffler as leverage to be able to pry this back. Now, sometimes, especially if you've done some off-roading in your Jeep, these can get caked up with dust, dirt, and debris and make them a little bit more difficult to pry. So if that's the case, you can use some soapy water, and that's just going to help lubricate this. So these are fairly flexible, so if you need to, you can put your pry bar in. And sometimes I like to use the top hanger as leverage to get this to pry out, but we'll get this taken down and then we'll repeat on the other side. It's a doozy. This is not an easy isolator to get to or really get leverage on. So really just kind of work this back, and you can also move the muffler a little bit. So if you're right at that edge, you can push on the exhaust tip, assuming that the exhaust is not hot. Soapy water definitely helped out, so I would recommend doing that just to kind of help lubricate that along. To get the hitch raised up, what you're going to want to do is try to get one corner of it in place, and you can grab a pry bar. There's a divot in the center section here, so if you use a pry bar or a flathead screwdriver to kind of wedge that, it's going to at least create a gap to where we can get this in, and then the rest should slide up fairly easily. So once that's slid up, what you're going to want to do is make sure that the holes are aligned, and to do that, if you need to, you can use a dead blow hammer to kind of knock this along to align those holes. But we're going to grab our factory bolts, and we're going to slide that through the two outside holes and get that threaded into the weld nut. So we'll start those first, and it should go in fairly easy. If it's not, I would recommend, again, taking that dead blow, kind of knock this around until you get a straight shot. I'm going to snug those down with our 18mm socket, and that's going to draw it up. It should keep the holes nice and aligned. You don't have to get crazy here, but this should keep this to where we at least have our thread started on that weld nut. So I'll just buzz these down real quick. And with those in place, we're going to grab our long bolts. We're going to put a flat washer on the head, and then have your serrated flange nut ready. So we'll just pass these through the middle holes, and I would recommend not going all the way in because you're going to want to feed this up with your fingers. It's pretty tight here, but just kind of hold that and thread the back on the head of the bolt, and that way we can get that started. Once we have this one started, we'll just do the same thing on the other hole. If you want to, you can snug them down. It's going to be a 19mm socket on the head of the bolt, and I used a 19 ratcheting wrench on the serrated flange nuts. Grabbing our torque wrench and just torquing these down per the torque setting found in the instruction manual. And this is an important step, obviously, because it's going to make sure that it's going to be tight enough to use our hitch. But also, when you deal with weld nuts, sometimes you can over torque and cause damage to them, or we can damage the hardware in the process. So the torque wrench really makes it to where we are dialed in exactly where we need to be. Now, on our center ones, the best way to torque something is generally on the nut side, but you can use a crow's foot attachment. I've found a lot of times that's a great way to bust your knuckles open just because it's going to want to open up. If you have a box end one, you could absolutely do that, but it's a little bit tricky. And if you don't have those attachments, I would say you're probably still going to be okay to put the wrench on the nut side and torque on the head. I understand that that's not the best way to do it, but I think all things considered, it should be just fine. So again, I'll put my torque wrench on our bolt, get my wrench in place, and then torque this down. Now once you finish up torquing down the rest of the hardware, all that's left to do is get our exhaust isolator put back on. We can load up our accessories, put it in our pin and clip, and we're ready to hit the road. Hopefully this video helped you get your CURT Trailer Hitch receiver installed on your 2025 Jeep Wrangler Unlimited. And if there's anything that I might have missed throughout the installation or something that you found that could be helpful for other Jeep owners like you trying to install a hitch, please leave a comment. We'd love to hear how we can make the video better. If it was helpful, also let us know. It's great to get those compliments sometimes. Beyond that, once it's installed, throughout the process of the installation, or if you're out there on adventures with your hitch loaded up, take some pictures and send it to us. We love to see neighbors out there on adventures using our products out in the wild. My name's Brad. Thanks for watching this installation of the CURT Trailer Hitch receiver 2025 Jeep Wrangler Unlimited.